Good afternoon. Good afternoon, kings and queens of the land. Good afternoon, the royals. Good afternoon to the liberated zones of Africa. The Burkina Faso led by President Ibrahim Traore. Mali led by President Assimi Goïta. And Niger led by President Abdurrahman Tian. Good afternoon to KZN, which is a liberated zone under the British colony, American imperialism, under the British colony and under the American imperialism and under the Dutch apartheid, South Africa, KZN, the MK party led by President Jacob Zuma, partially liberating KZN. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the royals, sons and daughters, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Today, uh, we are talking about, I want to talk about a subject, the future of South Africa and the role of Ramaphosa and the role of President Zuma in the future. The role of Ramaphosa in the current moment into what we're talking about and the role of President uh, Jacob Zuma in the future. That's what I want to talk about. And I hope we're going to have a good time. I'm just hoping. Today, I'm not going to share any video. I'm just going to have a conversation, talk about the things which are happening as they are happening. And I'm just hoping that whoever is listening will have the ability to understand exactly what I'm talking about, or at least have a curiosity to understand after this talk. My name is Mkhonto. This is the Royal Opinion. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those who are subscribing, and thank you to those who are liking the videos. In the 1800s, a man called Professor Nature wrote a book called God is Dead. It's one of the most famous book, and this is one of the most famous line of all his books. God is dead. This was implying, it was basically saying without, in the white community, because Christianity is a culture, in the white community who decided to make Christianity as part of their culture, uh, if you remove Christianity, then you create chaos, because culture regulates the behavior of the people who are following the culture. Without culture, there's no boundaries on what people can do. Without culture, there's no right or wrong. Without culture, there's no good or evil. So he wrote a book talking about the unsustainability, and he said the truth can be created. The truth can be created. In his book, he talk about that the truth can be created, and the truth depends on the observer. The truth and the reality is not the same thing. The truth and the reality is not the same thing. It may be true. It is generally taken as the truth that the day has got 24 hours in it, but in reality, it's a little less than 24 hours, 23 hours, sometimes a little more than 24 hours by some minutes or seconds. But the truth is, we all know that the day has got 24 hours. So Professor Nietzsche was saying truth could be created. So he was saying the truth could be created, can be created, and the truth and the reality is not the same thing. Basically saying that those who still believe, basically the statements we say is God is dead, it was saying the culture of Christianity cannot be sustained because it's not the truth. He said it is for the poor people to learn about Christianity so that they can follow the moral stories or the moral conversations in the Bible. But for those who are richer, should have the ticket to do anything they want to do on the planet. Those who've got will to power, they call it will to power, those who want to be in the leadership should just forget about everything and just lead. That's what he said. That's what he was basically saying. He was saying if you can remove Christianity, or if you can, yeah, basically, if you can remove Christianity, I'll come and explain later in our, uh, with regard to what I'm talking about in our culture. He said if you remove Christianity, then you are left with people whom are easier to control, whom are directionless, who does not know the wrong and the right, who've got no moral authority, who've got no direction if you remove Christianity. This was a book written in the 1800s called God is Dead, written by Professor Nietzsche. He had a big influence. This book had a big influence because the rulers, those who had access to this book, the rulers, have influenced a lot in the policy when they come to Africa. When they come to Africa, they had a strategy. The strategy was to, because one more thing which is important to note. Christianity and African culture serve the same purpose. It's for moral conduct. In actual fact, um, culture is not only for moral. African culture is not only for moral. It's actually most of the things are universal principles, meaning you have to do it in those things, you have to do them in that particular way for them to be able to work. That's what I call universal principles. So this professor had a big influence when they came to occupy Africa, when they came to invade Africa. When they decided and in 1885, in that conference where they divided Africa into smaller pieces for themselves, it's because of this philosophy of this guy, Professor Nash, who said you can do anything you want to do, you can do as long as it helps you to rise to power. It will not have any problem in the community. Anyone, you will not have any problem because God is dead. God is not alive. God is not there. So whatever they say, God will punish you because the principle of God was, or Christianity was, in this world you have basically no purpose because of the way people were being treated, but they believe that they will be valued elsewhere in the future. It's what keeps people going every day. They believe that one day they are going to walk in the streets of gold as long as they allow themselves to pass through this pain of dispossession, the pain of cultural alienation, the pain of watching children in drugs. All of those pains are going to be rewarded in the future when you pass into the spiritual world. If you behave in a particular way in this planet, then you're going to pass, you will have a license to pass to the spiritual world. So basically, it's helping people to behave in a particular way. But the rulers knows that this is only for controlling people. This is only for controlling the crowd. So the African culture is not only for controlling the crowd, it's actually for society to be able to function. If they say for you to get married, you need to pay lobola, it's not just for the sake of culture, it's for your marriage to be able to work. So, whatever they say in African culture, if you don't follow, whatever you are doing will not be able to give you the results that you want at the end of the day. Christianity does not matter. Whatever you do in Christianity, it's just that people believe in one way or another. People believe differently, but it's not linked to universal principle. Christianity is normally not linked to universal principle. There are some principles like principles of giving, which are linked to universal principles. Most of the principles in the Bible, it's only linked for to people to only follow and survive. So this is what we're talking about. This is what I'm talking about. So those who had the knowledge that this is the alienation of culture, will be able to give them the opportunity to rule and will create a nation which with no direction. They came to Africa to implement. This actually led to um, what I will call religious terrorism, where the white people came to Africa, to South Africa, ensuring that black people must follow Christianity or they face death. That was religious terrorism. The Muslims as well have practiced religious terrorism in Africa. The only people who never practice any terrorism, religious terrorism, in the planet is the Hindus, which are Hindus and the Africans. There's never been anybody who is been invaded by Africans and be forced to follow the African culture. There has never been anybody who has been invaded by Hindus and be forced to follow a Hindu culture. Uh, the Christianity, they have been conducting terrorism on religious terrorism, Christianity for people to become Christians in Africa. A lot of people had to die. A lot of people, they linked this took opportunities because they took the land. After taking the land, they link it to opportunities to force people to follow this culture, which is not linked to universal principles. The thing about the African languages, because culture is found in the language, culture can only be spoken in a language. The thing about African languages is the description of the words themselves are solutions. If you learn the word, if you understand the meaning of the words, you are given the solution through the definition of the word, uh, other than in English, where the solution has no link to the definition of the word. I don't know if I'm clear, or I don't know if somebody can be able to understand what I'm trying to imply in this regard. Their African languages are dictionary solutions, meaning the word itself, when you understand its meaning, you've got solutions for particular issues that may come into your life. So white people have already understood that God does not exist when they brought Christianity in Africa. They understood that people can rule themselves the way they want, in a way where Africans were ruling themselves. And they realized that if people rule themselves that way, they will not be able to make them slaves. Then they had to give them the um, Christian culture, which had no linked, which is not linked to universal principle. It had no link to universal principle. It's just a culture which people were forced to follow. The rulers themselves did not follow this. The rulers themselves created different laws for themselves. In actual fact, in the rulers, there are no laws. They have to, they do anything they want to do. They implement whatever they want to implement. Those who are ruled are the ones that had to follow the laws, are the ones that had to follow the morality. They once had to follow the moral principles. So realizing that black people in the culture in which they are following, they cannot be made slaves. They had to destroy the culture. Destroying the culture, uh, um, which I would rather call cultural genocide, was done through the languages, destroying the African languages, discouraging black people from using their own languages, so that they lose the language, because when you lose the language, you lose the culture. If you don't understand their language, you won't be able to understand the culture, because their culture is hidden in the language. When people don't know the difference between right and wrong, then you can take them to any direction. They will not be able to uh, refuse. Professor Nietzsche was talking about this thing. He says, if you want to enslave people, you need to ensure that you move them away from the words that protect them, which is their culture. Move them away to a cultureless society in which anything goes, in which alcohol can be drunk without people feeling any guilt, in which drugs are there. You know, people don't know that the legal drugs are actually the largest holocaust committed on humanity. The largest holocaust committed on humanity is legal drugs. Legal drugs which comes through the hospitals, and they have actually, because of these principles, implemented cultural genocide. They have implemented uh, the iron rule under black people. They have implemented the population control. This has been achieved in different ways. This has been because this is population control is one of the biggest projects in which the Europeans have taken over, have done in Africa. One of the biggest projects. I don't even know how many people or how many kids were prevented from getting birth in Africa or across the world because of this terrorism, birth control terrorism, which white people have decided to implement in South Africa and other parts of the world. This is done by the role. I may sound like I'm all over, but I want to lead to a particular conclusion, which will actually link all of what I'm trying to talk about. The largest holocaust on humanity is legal drugs. What is the purpose of these legal drugs? Is for dumping down the population's level of intelligence, so that Africa will not be able to rise to demand its rightful place in the world or its rightful place in its community. They have prevented many children from getting birth because from getting born because if the population of black people increases in Africa, then there will be demand for resources and demand for land. Which land should belong to the elites? And these children may start asking questions. So the best strategy is to implement a multifaceted strategy. The first one, prevent children from getting born. If you miss, if the children, some of them get born, put them on drugs, drugs, legal drugs, and illegal drugs. Governments are working on these things. Government official or government politicians are the ones who are implementing all of these strategies. All the women in the age bearing, in the child-bearing age, are hooked into prevention, some sort of prevention, birth control, um, prevention to protect them from getting babies. President Zuma, during the time when he was in government, he tried to fight this strategy which the European have implemented in Africa or in South Africa by giving those who are support, by giving those who are giving birth without working support for their children. President Zuma was the one who introduced social grants for children. So he was actually trying to fight against the depopulation programs that the Europeans have embarked on in Africa. They have embarked on changing the boys into, you know what I'm saying? They changed the boys into so that no boys are available. Those who escape this are put into alcoholism. Drinking alcohol becomes a normal thing because people have no culture anymore. They've got nothing to follow. The culture has been destroyed by the white system. Our culture is now celebrities who are fast losing status and fast losing power at the moment. But the culture has tended to be led by celebrities. The culture which young Africans are following now is not from their parents or from their grandfathers or their great grandfathers. It's from the celebrities which are led by the system, which trend they should follow. They are actually forced by the system. So Ramaphosa is part of the worldwide strategy to control people. In this part of the world, in South Africa, Ramaphosa is the weapon of the Europeans to subjugate Africans. Knowing this is, we are at a stage where they want to recapture the lands, they want to recapture the people, because now people were trying to revolt against the colonial rule of the British and the imperial behavior of the Americans. People in South Africa are trying to rise above that. President Zuma has formed the MK party to deliver black people from this strategy, which has been implemented by these people that I'm talking about. Those who've got no moral authority, who've got no right or wrong, who've got no good or evil, and are permeating that kind of behavior into the African culture. The stories of Mkhwanazi would be a serious issue in South Africa if if we had a moral culture. These people, even when they are uh, causing so much damage into the communities and the population that they lead, the populations cannot be able to remove them because there's an authority that handles them above everything else. There's an authority that handles these people like Ramaphosa. There has been a hope. Many South Africans were hoping that the South African army may conduct a coup and take over and remove maybe President Ramaphosa. And I said, it will never happen. It's never going to happen. There won't be any coup in South Africa because the army of South Africa is not so strong to can fight the American army. The ones who are in control of uh, Ramaphosa is the American army and the British army. The American army and the British army will have an opportunity to invade South Africa because they want their Cape Point. They will have an opportunity to invade South Africa if any coup happens in South Africa. But in any way, uh, the generals knows exactly that if a coup can happen, then they will be destroyed by the American armies. It will not be like in Burkina Faso where they will be left alone. Though I'm not when I'm saying left alone, I'm not saying they are basically left alone. Uh, they are not openly attacked by the Europeans as a war. They are using terrorist covert way of fighting. Terrorism in the Sahel is caused by France and America, those who've got interest in the gold and the minerals of Africa. Those are the ones that are creating terrorists that Ibrahim Traore is fighting in Burkina Faso. But if it happens in South Africa that an army takes over, America will not create only terrorists. America will come and occupy South Africa, will send its soldiers. The British going to send their people in South Africa to come and fight. So Ramaphosa is very safe. President Zuma, when he exercises the caution, he knows anybody who can go to the streets is going to be destroyed because these are people who've got no moral authority. They are not afraid to commit genocide and label it on somebody else who is innocent. They've got no problem arresting people, innocent people. Robert Sobukwe was killed, eliminated for just saying, let's stay away. Robert Sobukwe influenced black people to stay away from the white economy, to stay away from the white products, because he had that influence. They had to eliminate uh, Robert Sobukwe. It became dangerous for the system in that way. It was not evil. It was not even saying, let's fight them. It was not even saying, let them go. It was not even saying, I hate them. It was just saying, let's stay away from the white economy. If black people can agree not to go to their shops, not to buy their hair, not to buy their products, not to buy their trousers, if black people were to agree to stay away from this, they would immediately collapse. So we're talking about a system which has got no moral standing. They have no limit to what they can do. Sorry, I've been alerted by my team that President Zuma is about to. So we're talking about people who've got no moral authority whatsoever, moral standing whatsoever. They have no moral standing whatsoever. President Zuma is about to address a rally. So I'm going to share that.
Siyawuthatha u-2026 siyawina ngo-2026 asibonge bonke abantu abasuke KZN akubuye kahlala bathu bathiwa ngo-KZN apho basuke KZN akala ku-KZN abathi thina KZN apho abantu abasuke Joburg akala ku-Mkhonto ke bone Mkhonto bona Mkhonto ke bone Mkhonto abasePhumalanga bakhona bathi bakhona ngapha
So they have decided what I'm talking about, getting a little bit disturbed about what President Zuma is about to address the nation. President Zuma and the MK party about to address the people. But the issue that I'm talking about here, I'm talking about the people who are ruling this world, the only people who are going to save South Africa and the only people who are going to save black people in South Africa is the MK party. This is the only party which is real for black people. This is the only party which is going to change the life of black people. This is the only party which white people does not have control or over. Uh, so the white people have designed a system. This system is a triangle kind of system where the white man is at the top, the middle class, and the rest of the people. The middle class are the cash cows of the system, and the lower class are the slaves of the system, meaning these are the people whom they are taking everything from. They are not leaving anything to. So this is what President Zuma has created the MK party to defeat. These are the President Zuma is not fighting against Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa is a small, is very little enemy. If we want to talk about enemies, it's not even because he's coward. He can't even form even part of enemy that has to be recognized. He's very coward. President Zuma is fighting the people who created the system, the British and the Americans. That's why President Zuma is saying they will remove, he wants South Africans to remove the British system because they made a mistake to say this is democracy. And democracy is majority rule. If majority rule, why do we even have to vote in the first place? Because it's known that majority is black people. So white people should not be in any leadership positions. Black people should be leading in South Africa or in Africa. But the problem is people are controlled outside by these imperial forces, by those forces. By the forces who are created to destroy, the forces who've created the political system. When they created the political system, it was for them to have control. When they say democracy, it was for them to have control over the person who is put into power. Because through this process of democratizing or democracy, This is the only way in which they are able to meddle with the leadership. They have robbed election in the past. These people have got no limit to what they can do because they've got no culture. The organization which is needed to remove these people has to be also spiritually based, because we're talking about culture. The MK party has to restore the languages of black people. Black children have to be educated in their language. The education which black people should receive should be the education which is promoting their culture, their way of doing things, the way in which black people appreciate life should be able to promote. The education system should be the one that promotes all of those. The education system should be the one that creates children who are going to inherit the land and realize the importance of their land. The education system should be created, should be decolonized in order to allow the black child to be able to learn about themselves, to understand their own languages, to be able to extract the culture inside the language, and to be able to live the culture that black people has to live. People like President Ramaphosa, these are colonial stooges. A long time ago, they were slave traders. These are the people who were sent to go and search for slaves and fetch slaves and bring them in the table of the master to sell the slave to the masters. People like President Ramaphosa and Julius Malema are the ones who are playing these roles in this in our time. These are slave traders of our time, where they go and gather black people and go and sell us to the white system for their own benefit. The MK party, President Zuma has created the MK party in order to defeat this kind of behavior. Is the MK party gonna be able to deliver South Africa through the vote as President Zuma is hoping? I doubt it very much. It's never gonna happen through the vote. Uh, the white people are going to create chaos. They're going to rob the elections openly, because it does not matter what they do. As long as there are no consequences, they have no problem about it. They have no morality. So whatever they do, even stealing of the vote, stealing of the elections, robbing people, or even eliminating some people, to them it's nothing. It does not mean anything. If black people can try and go to the road to to the streets to strike about white people robbing votes, they are going to unleash guns on black people. In South Africa, even the ANC itself does not want President Ramaphosa. Nobody wants President Ramaphosa. Even the ANC itself does not like President Ramaphosa as we speak. Most members of the ANC wish Ramaphosa was out of his position, but they can't remove him. Nobody can remove President Ramaphosa from his position, because he is saving bigger purpose, the whole purpose of the white system. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's listen to the rally. Let's follow what is happening.
Kunabantu abangama-members kunalibathi members but abangayazi meaning ka-MK basathini what is the meaning ka-MK u-SG wethu ukhona namhlanje ngwani wakuna general wethu ukhona ngwani wakuna waneshika kutenkake sichazela ukuthi yini u-MK utaliwesa ukuthi MK kunabantu abake bajoyina u-MK kunalibathi bake bayiphathisana i-MK kodwa bakaze bafunge azange bayethe bathi uboshe emhlabeni nasezulwini uboshiwe babitena eboshisweni bonke kwani hoti izwa Vuma phansi emhlabeni nasezulwini nangevuma kodumela bona sathekile hoti namhlanje kunabantu bazofuma abantu abathi bathi benzani ukuthi ngeke ngenze parallel ngeke ngenze parallel kunabantu abenza ama-parallel kunabantu abama-leaders abangenzi kahle because abafundiswanga aseza nomthetho wabagoba sizofuna u-SG namhlanje uzosichazela sekretari wabona utatuthakusetsa ubaba uzofika azonifundisa niyayibona ikipa zenu niyayibona ikipa zanona
Let's click the like button and subscribe. This is the Royal Opinion. My name is Mkhonto. Thank you very much for joining this live stream. We will continue watching what is happening. We'll continue watching closely what is happening. Thank you very much for joining the live stream. Click the like button and subscribe.
kodwa siyaphambili phambili ngomkhonto wesizwe phambili ngomkhonto wesizwe phambili uma ekhona okhuluma ama-military veterans ukuwela military veteran akeze maphambili azosinike i-message of support mase siney'nkinga ingane zami asize ngaphambili abadansayo amathi amakabinet unkala basobekweni baya ya akeza thina ngisiyayisala yekunokomudla yekunokomudla
The future of South Africa. The future of South Africa. The future of South Africa will be ruined if we have to follow the system. At the moment, South Africa has been taken over by the system, by the criminals. Everybody is aware, but because there has been a moral decay in South Africa, there has been a moral decay across Africa because of the cultural genocide which has been committed by white people to ensure that the black youth cannot be able to take over their country. The black youth has been put into drugs. Black youth has been put into alcoholism, alcohol, in every corner, in almost every corner in township areas, it's a drinking spot. But this you don't find in white areas. It's only in black areas where uh, every corner has to sell alcohol. The main business in townships is alcohol. The main income, the main source of economic activities in townships is going to alcohol places for drinking. The future of the black person or the black child is gone. The land has been taken. People will be forced to go and live in towns in what they call smart cities. This is the plan that they want to do if the MK party is not supported. If the MK party does not win, then the black people are going to be forced to stay in what they call smart cities, where they will build a complex for black people to go and stay and be fed there so that they can have access to the rest of the land, they can have access to the resources, and they can have access to all the things without black people fighting. The culture of black people is dancing at the moment. When we are in this type of mood, because we are eating GMO food, we, we don't have enough intelligence to be able to realize that we are supposed to be fighting for the land and take over the land. All of this, what is happening, is going to be the future, which will be the suffering of the black people, uh, in which the white system would have taken over, like they've already taken over now. They have robbed elections and nothing happened. President Zuma tried to warn them not to go ahead to announce the election because uh, uh, he, the MK party, had evidence that the elections were robbed. But they went ahead and announced the election and took over and ran the country through a coup, a military coup, constitutional coup, which they have conducted in South Africa. They've conducted a constitutional coup to take over and rule over Africa. So the future of Africa will be suffering if the MK party is ignored, if the MK party is not voted in, if black people cannot rise to fight against the system, physically rise and fight against the system, then the future of black people is doomed. The future of black people is suffering. And the elites will continue to loot the resources in pleasure. Anyone who will try to be against is going to be arrested, is going to be just in jail. Anyone who's going to try and rise is going to be eliminated, and it will mean nothing. There won't be any difference between right and wrong. But if President Zuma is voted in, then we will have the culture of the black man restored. We will have children learning in their own languages. It is proven that people understand better when they learn in their own languages because Obviously, they don't have to struggle trying to interpret what the teacher is saying. So if they learn in their own languages, they tend to understand things in a better way. This will restore the culture because the culture is in the language. The role of Ramaphosa is finished. The role of Ramaphosa was to take the white system, was to take South Africa and its land and all its economy to the hands of the white people. That was his role. This role he played very well. The role that President Zuma is going to play in the future is that of restoring the black culture, is that of restoring the kingdoms, is that of restoring the pride of Africa, if he's allowed to do so by black people, by ensuring that he is supported. Thank you very much for joining the live stream. Click the like button and subscribe.